What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so in this video, I want to talk about something I've been noticing, especially this year. I probably have already done a video like this before, man. I don't know, but I've noticed it even more so. It's like every year it gets worse. Every year it gets worse with the disrespect toward Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You know what I'm saying? And this is coming from a guy who thinks the greatest NBA player of all time is Michael Jordan. All right, but I also firmly believe that when you're talking about the GOAT argument, that certain players belong in this conversation now. I don't think LeBron is the GOAT, but I also think that when you played as long as he has, that he has to at least be kind of like in the conversation a little bit. But guys like LeBron or Wilt, you know what I'm saying, uh, Kobe, uh, you know, there's certain players that are always in these conversations. Now, the media, of course, the narrative is it's LeBron versus Jordan. But my thing is, where's Kareem? It's like when I'm listening to these talking heads on television, when I look at social media, when I look at the, discussions between just fans of the game, you know what I'm saying, and their debate about who they think the greatest is, I'm hearing Kareem's name getting brought up less and less. Now, first of all, the media, comparison, that's just a farce. That's just media-driven hype. You know what I'm saying? I distinctly remember when I was a little kid. All right, early 1990s. I used to hear several people in this conversation as far as GOAT. Um, I used to hear, first of all, when you talked about different things. If you talk about the greatest player of all time, I used to hear Wilt's name pop up a lot. Kareem's name pop up a lot. Uh, Jordan was starting to enter the conversation then. Magic was in the conversation. And also specifically, when the debate was who's the greatest shooting guard, right? Shooting guard. The debate was, and this is like 1990. The debate back then was Jerry West, Jordan, and Sam Jones. So some of these guys don't even get mentioned anymore. Sam Jones, the emphasis was on the winning and the championships. I think Sam Jones won 10 NBA championships. That's a fact that doesn't even get brought up. But because those championships happened so long ago, people just nullified. Yeah, but he was playing against a bunch of bums. I.e., he's playing against a bunch of white guys. Doesn't matter. All right. Go forward some years, several years. Let's go Jordan's second three-peat. Then when it comes to who was the GOAT, it kind of narrowed down somewhat. It narrowed down more toward Jordan, Wilt, and Kareem. But Kareem even then was being mentioned less. All right. Now the shooting guard, it was kind of just like no dispute Jordan. I stopped hearing Sam Jones altogether, which is a generational thing. People that were talking about sports on TV hadn't watched Sam Jones, as opposed to 10 years earlier when they were old enough to have watched the Celtics. They actually watched the games. So by the late 90s, a lot of those guys that were in the media then weren't old enough to have watched the Celtics, some of them. So you started hearing certain names less. All right. So now, fast forward to the mid-2000s, Kobe Bryant's doing his thing. Now, all of a sudden, the GOAT argument is no longer, Kareem's no longer in this conversation at all. Wilt gets brought up still a little bit. But it's now Kobe versus Mike. And it makes sense to an extent, you know what I'm saying? They're both similar. They're both similar size. They both play the same position. Kobe, patterned his game after Mike, obviously. So that it made sense, It pissed me off, but it made sense. Now, fast forward a decade and some change. Now, all of a sudden, it's LeBron versus Jordan. Now, why is it, if it's a question, look, this is my problem. If it's a debate If you're debating it, right, LeBron versus Jordan, who's the best, then why is Kobe still no longer in the conversation if it's a debate? Doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, it's just a debate now. Who's the best? Who's the great? Who's the greatest between these guys? When they're both dissimilar in so many different ways, size, uh, you know, player profile, what I'm saying, position, the way they approach the game, playing style. They're so dissimilar, so many different ways, to the point where a fair comparison is LeBron versus Oscar Robertson or LeBron versus you know Larry Bird, or it doesn't make any sense. But the point is, this is all media driven bullshit. You know what I'm saying? So someone who actually wants to debate these things, it's frustrating. But Kareem Abdul-Jabbar doesn't get mentioned anymore. Doesn't get mentioned at all in these conversations. When it's blasphemous not to. Now we all kind of know why he's not mentioned, because when he played, he was not the most media friendly guy. He was standoffish. He was very political, and when you're very political in a field uh, as journalism was in the 1970s, 60s, 70s, into the 80s, still dominated by white males, it's going to rub them wrong, okay? And while you're playing, you put up a great career, you put up a great resume, but these journalists, come time for your legacy and all that, oftentimes they have the final say. And if you were a prick like Barry Bonds, the media often have the last laugh. Guys in the media. But for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, his resume, I mean, it's pretty much unmatched. You know, while he didn't have the gaudy, you know, offensive numbers and rebounding numbers that Wilt had, he didn't have the holes in his game, that Wilt had, foul shooting concern, and he was a bit more polished to me as a post player. You know what I'm saying? And he also had a lot more postseason success than Will Chamberlain did. For his career, Kareem averaged 24.6 points, 11.2 rebounds, and 2.5 blocks, although that's kind of a flawed number, that 2.5 blocks, because it's dividing his official blocks total into his games played, when the first 4 years blocks weren't counted. You know what I'm saying? So really, I think his career blocks number is more like 3.1, 3.2 or something like that. And if they counted blocks his whole career, he would have had over 4,000 career blocks. When, if you include guys like Bill Russell, Will Chamberlain, Nate Thurman, George Mikan, you know what I'm saying? If you include these guys and the blocks were counted since the NBA came to existence, then Kareem probably will probably be more like third or fourth all time in blocks. Um, but look at his resume. He's all-time leading scorer. All right, he's going to be so for at least the next couple of years. LeBron is threatening to challenge that, but we'll see. He's third all-time in rebounds, 17,440. All right, only Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell challenges him in that statistic. I think if you add the ABA, Moses Malone creeps up past him and moves in the third spot. But still, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was a 19-time All-Star, all right, in a career that spanned 20 seasons, the most all time. 4 times he led the NBA in block shots, which goes to show you that he was a great shot blocker. Once he led the NBA in field goal percentage, Once he led the NBA in rebounding. All right. He played in the second most games of all time, 1,560 games, behind only Robert Parrish. And one of the most interesting statistics I've ever encountered, of the 1,560 games that Kareem played in, his teams won in 1,074 of those games, which is the most wins ever accumulated by one player in NBA history. And his winning percentage of 69%, if I'm not mistaken, is the highest ever for one player for his career. So Kareem Abdul-Jabbar not only has the most wins, but he also has the highest win percentage. Pat Riley, Isaiah Thomas, and Julius Erving have been on the record as saying that they feel that he's the greatest basketball player of all time. I believe that as well, and I think Town Biz believe that as well. When you look at what Kareem was able to do from prep, collegiate, and NBA level, well, I think actually Town thinks he's the greatest NBA player too. Well, I disagree with, but I don't have a problem with that. But look at what he was able to do with Power Memorial in college. His individual numbers and how dominant those high school teams were winning those city championships. It's remarkable. Uh, no high school players could be that dominant. Then you look at what he was able to do in UCLA. You know what I'm saying? Just looking at some of these. 3 times he was the NCAA Final Four Most Outstanding Player. 3 times he was the National College Player of the Year. 3 times consensus First Team All-American. His number 33 was retired by the UCLA Bruins, and you know, and you know, people forget that when he was playing, he sat out his first year in college. I think he wasn't eligible to play. I think back then freshmen weren't able to play uh, right away. They had to sit out a year. So imagine what he could have done if he was able to play his freshman year. And also they outlawed the dunk when he played, and yet he still was as dominant as he was. And I think after he left, then they reinstituted the dunk. So that was done to try to slow this black man down, and he still was able to dominate. Power Memorial, he was 2 times Mr. Basketball. You know what I'm saying? In the NBA, his number 33 retired by the Milwaukee Bucks and the Los Angeles Lakers. Twice he led the NBA in scoring. He was on the all-rookie first team, as well as being the rookie of the year. 6 times he was on the all-defensive first team. 5 times all-defensive first team. 6 times NBA all-second team. 6 times he won the NBA championship. Once with the Bucks and 5 with the Lakers. Twice he was the NBA Finals MVP. All right, 6 times he won the league MVP. All right, 10 times All-NBA first team. 5 times All-NBA second team. In the 20 years that he played in the NBA, 10 times, or half his career, he was in the NBA Finals. All right, and I think 14 times in those 20 years, his team made it to the conference championship. I mean, I'm just amazed at some of these numbers. He's an all-time leader in minutes played, 57,446. Field goals made, 15,837. Shot attempts, 28,307. Just remarkable numbers, man. Had the most unstoppable shot in NBA history, the skyhook. Shot 56% from the floor for his career. And what was amazing about him was the fact that he was able to do what he was doing for so long. You know what I'm saying? Even into his 17th season, When he was 38 years old, he was averaging 28 points and 8 rebounds. You know what I'm saying? On like 56% shooting. Just remarkable. You know what I'm saying? He didn't have the prettiest shot. You know what I'm saying? But the skyhook was the most dominant and most effective weapon in the history of the NBA. And we'll never see dominance like that again, in my opinion. Uh, the way the center position has been phased out, the way it's more of a three-point shooting league, we won't see a big man, in my opinion, dominate the way that Kareem was able to dominate for 20 years in the league. Giannis is very dominant, but I have to say, Giannis's season now is sort of an average season for Kareem, especially his Milwaukee Bucks days. So it's like, yeah, this man deserves more respect. He deserves more respect. He deserves a lot more mention when it comes to the greatest players of all time. One of the criticisms, I want to finish this video on this. One of the criticisms that he hears, and some people put at him, is that, well, why wasn't he able to win without a dominant point guard? And the only thing I'll say about that is, name me a center that was able to win without, if not a dominant point guard, at least a dominant wing player. It's very, very, very rare. Like, I guess you could say a King in '94, but you have to also look at it that on those teams, he still had Vernon Maxwell, who was a very, very good player. You had Kenny Smith, who was a very, very good player, all right, although he was on the downside of his career, obviously. And you had Sam Cassell, who was a rookie, but Sam Cassell would go on to have a Hall of Fame caliber career. So while he did not technically have another All-Star on that team, he did have players who would have or had All-Star caliber type seasons. So that has to be mentioned. When a lot of people say, well, King played with a bunch of nobodies, which is absolute bullshit. You know what I'm saying? I've seen people say that, and I'm like, come on. And then, of course, the next year, they had to add Clyde Drexler, who, of course, is a Hall of Famer. But generally speaking, every great center has had to have a Hall of Fame caliber perimeter player for him to win a title. Whether you go back to George Mikan, Slater Martin, whether you're going back to Bill Russell with Bob Cousy and Bill Sharman, all right? And later on, of course, Sam Jones. Whether you're talking about Shaq, Kobe, and later on Dwayne Wade, you know what I'm saying? That's one of the things that hurt, in my opinion, the Knicks with Patrick Ewing. He never really had a Hall of Fame or close to Hall of Fame caliber backcourt player. You know what I'm saying? Not in their prime, at least. John Starks was very good, but he was no, Hall of Fame caliber player. So that's the thing, man. And once the captain left the Lakers, man, Magic never saw another title. So that's it, man. You know what I'm saying? I just think that Kareem needs to be in these conversations much more often.